All right, guys. Today I'm here with Chris George from Bedfordshire. Is that how you pronounce it?
You can say
Bedford,
it like that. Bedfordshire is the way we usually say it.
Bedfordshire, east of
Yes.
England. East of England.
Yeah, but just north of London, about 25, 30 miles north of London.
Miles, not kilometers. You've lost me already.
Oh, God.
But look, guys, it's 11 a.m. where Chris is, and it's 8 p.m. here in Sydney. I'm glad we've managed to tee this up. Thanks so much for your time, Chris.
That's all right, mate. No problem at all.
Dude, so peoples, I ran into Chris through Gmail. I found a video that a kid did. His name's Patrick Heaney. And the kid's got one arm, and his video was him playing the Hotel California solo. Was it a lefty? Was he a lefty?
Yeah, he is
He's a
essentially. And this
lefty
is,
too.
yeah. I
So
mean,
that
this is one of those things of doing, starting this, this YouTube channel thing. I don't watch a lot of guitar videos, but
right,
very early on, I came across, these recommended videos pop up.
yeah,
And there was it was just a very close up shot of what I assume was a young guy playing, but he had like a prosthetic on because he was born with
that's
that
what I saw the thumbnail too. That's it.
Yeah.
It
So
was suggested to me. Yeah,
right. So I just hit him up. I saw an email, just I had no idea where he came from or what country he lived in or whatever. And I said, look, I've just started this Lefty guitar channel thing. And aside from the usual guitar demos, I'm having a lot of friends on who I've worked with Musos and stuff, but I'd love to have you on because he's got a story to tell. And he been going viral with all these videos.
right.
And he's just the sweetest dude. I mean, he's just the sweetest guy. And we had a lovely chat for
I
a
saw
long
it.
time.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah. And, it's nice to be able to do something. I think it was more of trying to be a little bit him trying to get across that he's an inspirational guy. It's as simple
Yep.
as that, really, because
Yep.
he's, as well as the guitar side, whatever he's been thrown at in life, he's always taken head on, and it's not a disability, essentially, is it? You know what I mean? When he has an attitude like that. So yeah, he was great.
It's very brave of him to release content. Like one of my best mates has one arm, and it took him a long time to get used to seeing photos of him in the background being uploaded, because I'm always uploading my stuff, and there was an insensitivity on my end initially because I didn't know if I had to ask him permission if he was in the photo.
Sure.
But over time he got more and more comfortable with it. So he's obviously very brave, this kid, as well.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, I'd like to think there's no. Can I swear or no?
Of course, man.
I like to think there's no assholes or kids, but I think he's got a lot of support from the people that watch his stuff, which is even better.
Obviously,
and that's I mean, that's really what it's all about, isn't it? That's what I'd rather see on YouTube, stuff like that than a bedroom guitarist telling me how I can make it in the music industry or whatever.
But dude, he's actually he's really good too. That's the thing. Like,
Yes.
I have seen so many videos of guys who've got all these amazing guitars hanging up on their walls, and as soon as you hear them play, it's like they haven't even learned to keep in time with the metronome yet, or like
Yeah.
it's savagely bad. And again, they've got more followers than I have, and they're getting great comments like, awesome playing, man, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm a
Which is,
photographer
I mean-
as a profession, and I see that all the time on the photography groups that I'm part of. Like, someone will upload a phone photo of a car, and everyone will comment, "Wow, that's an amazing photo." I'm like, why? Like,
Yes.
I'd love to create a discussion around why do you think this is amazing, but then I don't want to come across as a either. So
No, I know, and that's the funny thing, isn't it? Because I never really watch a lot of YouTube guitar related YouTube stuff at all. But naturally, I've like I said, this whole thing with Patrick, things start coming up, recommended for you when you're doing it, and it's just I'm still baffled by the whole way it works, really, because like you say, there's people on there, and you think, all right, but they're doing amazingly out of it, and then it all gets the bit I really don't understand, and the thing I really wanted to steer clear of was there's always an essence of soul selling on there, in that they use clickbaity titles,
the titles,
really stupid thumbnails with pulling stupid faces, and the titles will say, "You won't believe what," and it's like, I've even seen now, and I still see now, credible people who can play and who have a good reputation and have been on there a long time and have gazillions of followers following that path. And I think, well, why are you doing it? Are you only doing it because all the other kids and whatever are doing it to get attention? You don't have to do it. That's like,
well, when you straight up ask them, when you straight up ask them, they say, "Oh, because I have to, because it's the algorithm, because they need to make money off this thing." So
and that's what I'm saying. That's the bit where I certainly don't plan on being known as a YouTuber. It's really been something to fill my time this year in particular, and I just try and make it a bit more honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which sadly, that I mean, this is a great discussion to have, because I think it's the way I've always kept it too. And if anything, you get trolled a little bit for being too honest, because when you're vulnerable, some people can't think that that's a cool thing for you to do because it's not the manly thing to do, or it's not what the cool kids are doing. You know what I mean? So you do put yourself on the line a little bit more by being honest, but it's the feedback that you get. Like, I think when I reached out to you, I sent you an email that was this long, which is like way too long, like I didn't want to freak you. Man. But it's just one of those things. It's like I could have been like everybody else and just clicked on the like button, or I could have felt generous, which some kids must feel when they hit the subscribe button. But I'm like, I'm pretty old school, right? So I'm going to send this guy an email,
exactly.
And make shit happen. It's kind of like, it's, I think people have forgotten that. It's like people maybe feel like they're doing the work just by clicking the like button,
which is obviously fine. And, it's quite nice, I suppose, because I think I was probably throwing myself out there and bracing myself for all sorts of negative comments. And, I'm not really a newcomer to it, which is a bizarre thing, because I did all the online demos for Marshall for years, and very early on a lot of that stuff. But what you were saying about the whole thing of reaching out to people was, again, exactly what happened with Patrick, that he'd been reported on in various news outlets and media, and the guitar media and stuff like that had said about, and that's why his videos were going crazy. But when I said to him, has anyone actually reached out in person, like I am today, to interview you, to have a chat about how you've got there? He was like, no, you're the first person. I'm like,
isn't that crazy?
Isn't it? And that's the baffling thing. They wouldn't even, it's almost a sense of, if you're posting a story about someone who has gone viral, why don't you just dig the surface a little deeper to find out about the person? And it doesn't have to be an hour-long chat like I had with him, or that we're probably going to have now. Just get a bit of information on the person themselves. It's because they're not real. That's the thing. Like they don't want to lose their job, so they're sitting there for hours a day looking for something that is the algorithm is spitting out, so that they can cash in on the algorithm. And everyone's talking about this, so we better release a feature on that and hashtag the right thing so that we get a little bit of traffic. Exactly. It's really sad. Like I think some guitarists have gone so far on YouTube that I saw a guy's video the other day that was the top 10 most overrated guitar players. Right.
And this guy, like, I couldn't help myself. I had to dig through all his videos and watch him play to judge for myself whether he's a good player or not. And he wasn't a great player, but he's sitting there saying, Steve Vai is overrated, or who's that guy that you played with, the blues guy, Joe Bonamassa. Right? Like, I've only just discovered him this year, and I am so enjoying all the tangents of like Sam Fish and just all the people that he interviews. I am now checking out, and it's opening me up to a whole world of awesome blues players, and the cruises that he does on these boats, and has all these amazing blues players on the boat. And just to hear this guy's video, just paying out Joe and paying out all these people for being what he considered overrated. I'm like, wow, he's got millions of views and comments, and I don't know, like he has to live with that.
And that's the thing. And it's down to, again, that whole thing of selling your soul for clicks and likes. I mean, why would you do that? I mean, the first thing that baffled me about YouTube, really woke me up about YouTube many years ago, was when the negative comments started coming in, not particularly towards me, but when I started seeing guitarists badmouth guitarists, I thought that's the unwritten rule in any, you know, in the industry. You never ever say that. We're always a supportive bunch. And I think at that time there was a great divide in that there was no sense of community anymore in terms of playing the guitar. It's like, hang on, we're all supposed to be looking out for each other because we've all followed the same path. We've all learned those first open position chords and gone on from there. Why on earth would you badmouth another person for doing it? It's not professional. It's not nice, you know, and you're just coming across as, you know, you see making comments online, but you're making a comment and you play the guitar. There's no way you should, sorry, my language.
Totally.
There's no way you should be. If you ever wanted to make anything of this, I'm not even talking about profession, but if you just even want to play in a band, why would you start bad mouthing other guitarists? And now, like you say, it's full of that people's opinions of who they think are overrated and you know, why so-and-so sucks at playing guitar. It's like, come on, you have no basis to be saying any of this business.
It's the internet though, right? Like if you really, if we boil it down, like we, you know, used to hand in our demo tapes to Heavy Metal magazine, and you know, we used to write them letters and hope that our letter would get published in the first few pages. And I don't think anyone could have a voice back then. I think you had to really work for it. You know, you had to. It was really grassroots. And I think it's gotten to a point now where I suppose anyone of any age or any level of experience can have a voice. And I think the rating system of if someone leaves a negative comment underneath your video and it happens to be in that sort of twisted, funny, weird humor that the trolls do it in to gather more likes, then all the other trolls end up liking the most trolly comments.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they must feel some sort of like how we feel when someone gives us good feedback. Sure. A troll must feel a similar feeling for leaving a negative comment that gets liked by the trolls. Of course,
which is a really weird way of, you know what I mean?
This is what you're signing up for. This is what I find fascinating because I've been around since the beginning of the internet. I've seen this happen over the years. So you're not new to it, but I think where you were before with, like, it's funny because I'm reverse engineering you in some ways because I found your latest stuff, right, with the Lefty channel. But then the more I dig, I find stuff like I found some footage of you on Anderton's channel.
Yeah.
Right? And they're like huge. And I've been like, so, you know, when you reached back and said that you were cool to do this podcast, I went, I better go and research this guy. Holy shit, man, you're a beast. Like you're a monster. And it's like, you almost remind me of that cool film that came out like 20 years ago, something like it was called Almost Famous. It's like, I almost think like that. When I see your stuff, I'm like, holy hell, like you play like how every kid that picks up a guitar wants to play. Like, like you're one of those players that if you just picked up a guitar and you watched you play, like you just shredding away, like kids would be like, I want to play like that one day, you know? So
maybe, who knows? I mean, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
No, dude, but it's like, it must be a nice thing to be at the level that you're at, right? Because, you know, even as kids, like I always dreamed of having a Marshall stack after seeing, you know, Guns N' Roses live. You see all the Marshall stacks, and like for you to work with Marshall for 20 years, right? Like, actually be like a brand ambassador for one of the, it's arguable whether they're the best amp in the world, but they're one of the coolest. Like people know definitely that logo.
It's a very iconic brand, and it was never really. It was never really something I ever took for granted. I only ever thought it'd last a few months because I was very young when they got me on board to do some clinics for them which would have been 1998, I think.
Nice.
But the thing is, I'd grown up being a fan of theirs, and I would go to the London Guitar Show every year, and I would always go and meet Jim, and I would get a signed poster, and that would be on my wall. And then bizarrely, a bizarre twist of fate, I would end up being on the other side of the fence and being the demo guy for them, succeeding people that I'd been watching when I was younger, so it was a really strange thing. And like I said, it was always, I thought, well, if this would be great if it lasts 6 months. But it just kept
20
happening.
years.
And it was, it was nearly 20 years, but it was, in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I went on pretty much fully on board with them, on product and stuff like that. Working on all the new product, and it was great times, but so many memories. And I knew Jim obviously very well, and I was 17 when I first started doing the shows for them, and
that's so young, man. Like that is so like if you've got 3 kids, and we might get into that topic a little later, but like I think one of your kids is like a teenager, but 17. Like I know people that are 17, I know family and like friends that are that age, and they've got so much weight on their shoulders. It seems like back when we were 17, you just had to we were just so obsessive compulsive about something, and that's how we got good at stuff. Like you got good at it because you couldn't wait to get home from school to skate all day or play the guitar all day, or that obsession seemed to always be there quite naturally. Whereas now I think the young people that I speak to, they're so beaten down that they don't know what they're good at. And I think maybe instead of watching a video of you playing and thinking that's inspirational, maybe they're like, oh, I might as well just give up. And I see a lot of that in the comments. I'll be like, oh, I might as well just sell all my guitars.
Yeah, and you know what? Through all the live clinics I ever did with Marshall, which was hundreds and hundreds of them, I would always get some of that, and people come up saying, "Well,"
even when you were 17.
Yeah, even when
you were young.
Even in the early years. But I would always say to them, that's not what it's about. Just because I play the way I do doesn't mean that you should aim to play exactly like, just go and be your own person. Because essentially, I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they try and be something they're not. Essentially, if you follow your own path, you'll end up being your own player, your own style, your own person, But that's always quite a difficult one for me, knowing that you don't want to have a negative connotation. You always want to try and inspire people, I think, when you do things.
Yeah, that's like a true artist, right? Like you're obviously a true artist. So I think that is where it's at. It's like me personally, I had to have that epiphany moment like 20 years ago. So it's something where I'm like, oh, what am I on the planet for? And when I finally figured out that I'm on the planet I'm happy with inspiring others, and that's it. That I'm totally cool with that. If that's the only reason why I'm on the planet, then I'm happy with that. So I think that is a good mindset to have. It's not like you're even when you see Eric Gales and like Joe Bonamassa doing a guitar solo, and people in the comments are like, oh, this person won or whatever. I'm like, it's not a competition. It's not a guitar war. No. It's a conversation. It's like
that's right. Exactly.
It's how you look at it, right?
Of course, there's no doubt about it. But that would, not once did I ever, particularly in my younger years, not once did I ever listen to my idols like Slash or Zakk Wylde or Joe Perry or Angus Young and think, oh, I'm just going to give up. It was so inspirational. It just made me want to play more and more and just improve so much, And I still watch Zakk and I still think, I can't play like that. I still can't play like that. But it doesn't make me want to give up now. It's not still inspiring.
Yeah. Dude, on Slash, I read that Slash is one of you, and so I really want to talk about Slash for a second, because when people ask me who my guitar hero is, I always say Slash, always. Yes. And I don't listen to, like, for a long time, I listened to so much electronic music. I got into the whole ecstasy and clubbing scene and all that shit, and rock and roll kind of disappeared and died for me for many years. But I still always say Slash because his guitar solos are more addictive to me than Axl's vocal melodies. Like they're so melodic that I can sing his solos in my head, and I found that in high school. And I remember first time I heard him, my relos in Indonesia sent me a big plastic bag full of cassette tapes, and they're all bootlegs because that's what they were doing in Indonesia. They just sent me some, and one of them was Appetite for Destruction. This was like 88, right, or 89 or something. And I put it on, wasn't thinking much of it, and then It's So Easy came on.
Yeah.
And Axel just goes, "Why don't you just dun, dun, dun." And I'm like, oh my God, like what the is this? It was just so, for a kid to hear that, like I was so hooked on it because there was nothing like it. Like at the time there was your Bananaramas and Boy George and Milli Vanillis
but also they were so different from that whole LA scene as well. They were completely different from bands like Poison or
there was Poison,
glam. That was what was
Motley
taken over
Crue
at the time. Exactly. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Motley Crue, but the weird thing for me was I was a bit of a latecomer to, not really a latecomer, but what did Appetite come out in 88?
88.
So I was 7. So I that was about the time I started playing the guitar, but with no inspiration. I just wanted to play the guitar. So it was around 92, I would say 91, 92. I was a little bit older, so I was probably 10 or 11, started reading about them in the mags, started seeing things. It's about the time the Use Your Illusion albums came out. And then in the UK, they televised a concert of Guns N' Roses from Paris. This was 92. And I remember my dad recording it for me, and I watched it back, and it was almost the completely life-changing moment that, oh my God, this is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen, the most unbelievable frontman I've ever seen, the most insanely good guitarist but whole band. So then it was straight down the shop, and my first one I bought was Use Your Illusion 2. Wow. And then always the opening of Civil War when it first starts, and even now, and then that just went on to inspirational, and I was just such a fanboy, so buying all the bootlegs, like when they released this, they released an Appetite box set last year or the year before, and it had Shadow of Your Love on there, but I already had that from bootlegs years and years ago, and I think it was the B-side on the single of November Rain, but I could be wrong. So I had all the singles and all the bootlegs, everything, all the unofficial stuff, all the official stuff. And
there used to be so many bootleg CDs and tapes back in the day, man.
Yeah, and some were really hit and miss. I remember
badly recorded.
Yeah, and it was literally some of them are great. Some of them was just like it's like a guy with a tape deck, and all you're hearing is crowd noise and the band off in the distance. But I was.
But if you're a fan, you're a fan. You lap it all up because when they slightly change something, you freak out, and it's like, holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah, but that's I suppose the beauty of that now is when you see a lot of the old stuff on YouTube of the old GNR live stuff from around that time, the early 90s. For me, that was when they were absolutely
dude, it was magical. And they were, I mean, even the album art, like I remembered as a kid going to the city every weekend because my parents had a business in the city, so I'd always have to tag along with them on the weekend and go into the Big Smoke, where everyone's at lunchtime, just like crowds of people. And I started seeing this T-shirt on everybody, and it looks like, to me, I thought it was a skateboard truck. It looked like a skateboard truck because I was a skater then. Turns out it's two guns, and it's the Guns N' Roses logo. I'm like, holy shit, everyone's wearing this fucking T-shirt. And then they were being sold because there was a concert coming out. They were coming out to Australia, and they were being sold as the world's most dangerous band. Because people died at people got crushed at one of their concerts.
Yeah, Donington, that's right. Yeah, in the 80s, yeah.
Right. So I just remembered as well, like there were a couple of like alpha male students in my high school. And I was in like tech drawing class one day, and one of them tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh, so you got past Sweet Child of Mine yet, man?" Like as in like, that's the gay song, and you should get into the other songs. And I'm just like, man, like that song is amazing. Like,
yeah, of course.
Like I remember
the
even
only problem with that song, as with any good song, is that as a fan, you just hear it all the time on the radio and everything like that, and that there's so many other great songs. And don't get me wrong.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, everyone knows Sweet Child of Mine, but I don't know, Rocket Queen or anything.
Rocket Queen's amazing.
isn't it? Just so
Like for a kid
unbelievable.
though, it's just so much. It's like the album cover art had like sexual art in it on the inside,
Yeah,
and the Rocket Queen had like a woman moaning in it, and man,
that's
it
right.
was overload for me at that age. There was nothing like it. There
Sure.
was just it was just mind blowing, and
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been another band that's come along since. I mean, maybe for me to get out of rock and roll, The Prodigy. The first time I was at a mate's place in the city, and his flatmate was blasting Voodoo People, and I had
Yeah, yeah.
never heard anything like it in my life. I was like,
Yeah, that was
"What
huge as well. I
the
remember
hell
that.
is that?" You
Yeah.
know, and same with Chemical Brothers. I suppose like block rock and beats, and I started to hear some rock and roll in the electronic stuff, and that probably
Sure.
weaned me off. But
Yeah, the Prodigy were a funny one because they were really they really were quite a crossover, particularly here. Like they would start appearing on like rock and metal bills at festivals and stuff.
exactly right,
And
exactly, yeah.
I always found that a really strange one because
It
essentially
was
they were
awesome,
a
yeah.
dance act ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
but they would they would headline like I don't know Donington or not Donington
Yeah.
maybe, but Reading and Leeds and all these things and all these sort of big rock shows and stuff. And then you see them in the Krang magazine and all that. So
Yeah.
well, they were very smart, I suppose, in that sense.
Oh, dude, I remember seeing it. Like we have an event called the Big Day Out, and it's all rock. And
Yeah.
I really remember the first year where they had a one stage dedicated to electronic music, and just looking around, seeing metalheads and goths slowly start moving their bodies to electronic music. It was really fascinating because goths, you couldn't headbang to it, but
Sure.
they started dancing to it, and it was really weird. It's like they're fencing. It's like they're fencing. It's really strange. But I remember seeing it, and yeah, it's part of the norm now, isn't it? If it's heavy,
Yeah.
it's heavy. If it makes you
That's
feel,
right.
if it's raw, it's raw. But
For
back
sure,
on
man.
Slash, it's like I think when I was younger, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, except for that every solo he did was just so memorable to me, note for note. I would,
Yes.
go home, catch the bus home, and I'd have a 15-minute walk home, and I could sing his solos in my head without
Yeah.
music. And I was so into skating, and I just remember there were certain skaters that I liked. Like there's your Tony Hawks that can do your 720s and land perfectly, and it looks robotic almost. Then you've
Yeah.
got your skaters who are so sketchy that it looks like they're about to stack it, but somehow they land it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I've always thought
I think
Slash was that kind of
the
player.
exactly. And that was, I think, the bigger picture of that was the whole band was always like that. But he
Right.
was, if you listen to him, you're exactly right. You just think it's just so, it's not, it's not perfect, and none of it has to be. You know what I mean? Yeah, he has unbelievable tone, and he has the ability to come up with unbelievable melody and phrasing, and that's what playing is all about. Yeah, it's got this looseness to it,
So loose.
and it's not like you watch all these players again. The YouTube players just go running through scales up and down, up and down, up and down. There, there's no that was listen, man. I can tell you firsthand that is no different from what was happening at the guitar shows in the mid-90s. You know what I mean? Yet people they're just doing it online now, and it's all so robotic and so mechanical. That that's a far cry from anything I'm into because of Slash, essentially.
Yeah, totally. Awesome, man. Well, look, let me see where this is going. So I have some notes. Like I thought, it is like you mentioned in the email. Like you're more than happy to let me drive, and
Sure, why not? It's quite nice because I've been interviewing loads of friends recently on my thing, and it's quite funny. The tables are turned today.
dude, that's the thing. Like I started watching your podcasts, and then started watching them in a row, like literally one after the other. But like I said, when I started watching you actually playing your guitars, I'm like, holy this guy's a beast, man. So they're completely separate things, you know what I mean? Like they're completely separate things.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tried to do. I mean, it really, after the year everyone's had, I really wanted just something to do this year. It was really about having any type of routine and something It's just something to do.
But it's like you said, you know how to do it too, because you had been doing workshops. You know, like I think people who you're obviously comfortable sitting there talking for an hour, like recording. Like a lot of people don't even have anything to say, or maybe they're not confident enough to put an opinion out there. But you're quite happy to just talk, and it's very easy to listen to you talk as well. Because I found a video with you and your Les Paul. I've been looking at Les Pauls, and I found that, and I think it was one of your earlier ones where you actually explained.
Big beard.
Well, you were actually explaining that, like, you know, it's weird times with COVID and stuff, and you were
that was the first video.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
And I think initially you did want to try to keep it all lefty content, and obviously, you've had to at some point interview people who are not left-handed, which is totally cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the thing really, aside from the usual guitar-y stuff, making it twofold so it would appeal to perhaps more people. You know, there's hundreds and hundreds of musicians in this world that nobody knows their names, but they've done amazing things. And I've worked with so many of these people. So I thought this would be a great, like, the B-side of doing the channel will be having them on for a chat. And again, it was really testing the water, as was doing the format of the actual guitar content ones.
Right.
But it's really simple, because I just talked to them about where they started and how they got to where they are now. You know, so a couple of the younger ones that have come on, you know, they've not been quite as long, but some of the older guys, like I had Tony Platt, who I worked with a few years ago, who was the engineer on Back in Black, and he's done some incredible things, you know, with Bob Marley and Led Zeppelin 4. He was the engineer on, and he just had some incredible stories that he himself hadn't even told very many times, even down to how they recorded the bell at the beginning of Hell's Bells, and really incredible stuff like that, you know. So it's given them really a platform to talk more than anything and just sort of tell their story.
It's like that's the way I look at it too. Like, I've done so many podcasts with people that hardly get viewed, right? Maybe there's like 40, 50 views on them. But I'm just hoping that, like, some of the people in the 40 got the gold out of it. Like, there's like little nuggets of gold in every podcast. And it's like anything that's good in life. Like, I think you need to put the work in. Like, some people will comment on social media. They're like, holy 2 hours long. You know, I've got ADHD. I can't do that. I'm like, well, how are you going to succeed in life? Like, I mean, you need to put some blood, sweat, and tears in to find the good bits, right? You can't just be,
of course,
here's the one good bit for you. You know, I don't know. I just think that's the way it's going now. But anyway, back to driving. So you gave me a link to your website, and I checked out your website. And it's really fascinating because I get from your website, it's so guitar centric. Like, your channel is, you in my head are like, obviously there are other things in life that you're really good at, but what was nice about it was just the one thing, and the one thing really well. Like, I think a lot of people tend to pick up all these different things that they're slightly, it's almost like Kylie Minogue, right? She's an all right dancer, she's an all right singer, she's an all right looker, and you put it all together, it's an amazing package. So I think a lot of people are kind of doing that bitsy thing. But what I liked about your website was, this is what I am, this is what I'm good at, and it had that humor as well. It was like, Chris who? And it's like,
exactly.
But it's literally like within, you know, I've been a web designer my whole life, so, you know, I don't know if you meant it or not, but what's nice about your website is it didn't take me more than a minute to understand what you were about. There's nothing convoluted about it.
That's what I tried to do. Right, there you go.
Dude, and I think that's brilliant, because I think most websites are so confusing that you just close the window because you can't find what you're looking for, or like it's confusing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've got to be straight to the point, really, haven't you? And, you know, ultimately people who are going there will know that you play the guitar, and you just want to make it really brief. Not necessarily brief, but you just want to get the key points out of the way. But also this whole thing of, you know, I don't take myself seriously. I don't have an ego, and I never have. And I think that might be a bit of a misconception, particularly in my younger years when I had all the hair and stuff like that. You know, you look at any guy, and the amount of people that come up to and say, "You're much nicer than I thought you'd be." You know what I mean? But I don't. And I think with the current, you know, that current version of that website is is very. I try and get that across in the bio bit, like you say. It's called Chris Who, because who are you? And I think the opening gambit on that is, I was the biggest baby born at the Luton and Dunstable Hospital on New Year's Day.
Yeah, it starts off really funny and intriguing straight away.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just try and sort of give a bit of a best of, I think, rather than making it too meandering. You try and be straight to the point. And I always feel, when you're trying to get across to people that you've had the privilege to work with or play with, and you don't want it to sound like, like you're up your own ass and stuff like that.
Yeah, what do they call it? Name dropping. Yeah,
name dropping, exactly.
Yeah.
And I even put on there, I'll do the name drop here. You know what I mean? Here's a name drop.
Yeah, dude. I think everything was perfect. And even in your frequently asked questions, you mentioned, for people to not have an ego, and that's really nice. I think there's a difference between attitude and ego. I think ego can be healthy, but I think I think a lot of young people maybe put on an attitude because of their insecurities. They put on the attitude, but then maybe eventually when you start to actually get good at something, attitude becomes confidence. So
yes, of course. And there's there's no doubt that some people have a natural shyness, and I know I did when I was younger, but things sort of change as you get older and you have more confidence. But there's no doubt, even if you look at someone like Kerry King, who, you look at him and he's got this beard and he wears sunglasses and he's got his tattoos all over his head. He is the nicest guy in the world. He's softly spoken.
Being humble is look. What do you think then that just going through your website, winning Guitar Magazine's Young Guitarist of the Year at 16, right?
Yes.
At 16, you're not really. I'm just speaking generally, but at 16, you're not really matured mentally yet to be really good at stepping outside of yourself and looking at the bigger picture, because you're fucking 16, right? So
sure.
Do you think that part of why you're so humble and giving back to, this nasty community that exists out there, the online community and stuff, and taking a risk with it and all, but do you think part of it is because of all the success you've had that has enabled you to reflect?
Well, I don't know if you'd call it success, but I just think you get to a point where, I turned 40 at the beginning of this year, which was another thing that wasn't really that well timed with everything that's been going on. But I certainly don't feel like I'm 40 years old, but I know that I've been on this earth for 40 years, and
it's pretty substantial, isn't it?
Right.
I turned 46 this month, so it's
there you go. So, and I'm sure you'll agree, whatever you do, you have this mindset of, especially when at this point in time, I've been playing the guitar for 33 years.
Yeah.
I sort of couldn't give a you know what I mean? If I'm going to be blatant about it, I've been really lucky enough in my life to do so much stuff and push myself in various different areas in terms of music that I kind of feel I'm super happy in myself. You know what I mean? I don't really feel like I've got a lot to prove, which I think is sort of stems through to doing the YouTube thing. And that's the attitude I've had of not making it at all clickbaity and all of that,
Exactly.
Look, man, I'm super happy and comfortable, and I know I'm not Zakk Wylde, and I know I'm not Slash, and I know I don't have their bank accounts either. But look, I'm just cool. I'm happy. You know what I mean?
I love it, man. No. But I love it though, because obviously you're the kind of person that places value. Well, in my opinion, anyway, you place value in the right places. If someone's. So. I think someone who values more likes and stuff because of a clickbait title, they might have their values skewed up.
Listen, and that's the thing with YouTube is that, I'm essentially a guitarist that's never, other than obviously doing all the stuff for Marshall on there, which gained a lot of attention. That's never been my bag to do a YouTube thing. And that's why doing the Lefty Guitar channel thing is not the Chris George channel. It's the Lefty Guitar channel, because it's trying to put a sense of community about it. And it's not just open to left-handed people, it's open to right-handed people at the same time. But you're trying to, like I was saying earlier, just be a little bit more honest with everything. And I'm not going to go selling my soul, because why should I? Because I will at some point, hopefully this year, be back doing work and having gigs and doing whatever,
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening.
Might have to park it and carry on. But what I'm trying to, I'm sure it won't ever come across to people, but as I said earlier, there's real musicians out there who've been doing it a long time. Aside from me, like the people I've had on there, they're the guys who do it. You know, it's not, and I can tell you now, none of us have ever looked at the YouTube channel being told how to get on in the music industry by, you know, some 18-year-old kid. You know what I mean?
Look,
Who's also got a list of overrated guitarists.
I think there's a difference, Blake. Like you're definitely being honest on there, but you're also being like so humble that you're not like I said, when I saw your CV, it's beast, man. Like I'll rattle a few more things. Like, yeah, definitely the whole Marshall thing and working having a relationship with Marshall for 20 years, like, which is so substantial, man. Like when I hear of 20 years in a job, it's usually like for some telecom company or some corporate thing that people hate for 20 years, you know, and they're doing it because they've got kids and they've got to put food on the table. And then like your list of like played with Paul Gilbert, Joe Bonamassa, Yngwie Malmsteen, Joe Satriani, like holy like how is your head not exploded? You know, how is your how are you not like full on rocking out with your cock out and shoving it in people's faces, saying, you know, on your banner on your YouTube, saying like I've played with Joe Satriani. Like it's just it's not just honest that you're doing. You're actually really you're really just having a play with this medium and giving it a go and not trying to sell something from the outset to the masses, but like, hey, if people find it, you're cool with it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the other thing, you know, you don't want to be preceded by any title or because again, in itself, that becomes clickbaity, doesn't it? You know, if you put,
there's a fine line. Yeah. Well, there's a line,
is, you know, and also anything like playing with Joe Bonamassa was just once. It happened once at Ronnie Scott's in London. Playing with Joe Satriani happened once at Wembley Arena in 2012, which ironically was the first venue I'd seen him play when I was a kid.
That's awesome.
Playing with Paul Gilbert happened more than once, actually. Happened a few times at various guitar shows. He would, Frankfurt Music Messe, he would have a spot in the Marshall booth and he would use me and my guys in the band as his backing band. And let me tell you, man, there's no bigger learning experience because he does this thing where he throws it before anything happens. He'll start out by throwing a lick at you and then you'll throw something back. And when you're looking in the eyes of Paul Gilbert and he's throwing these licks at you, there is no greater learning experience than that. Let me tell you.
But
do you know what?
The mistake, like, people are stoked to just meet these people, let alone,
I guess,
you know, and then you shit your pants. Like most people would just shit their pants and not be able to.
I guess so. And I think that at that moment, the biggest mistake a lot of people would make is to try and be Paul Gilbert, you know, and why would you try and be Paul Gilbert to Paul Gilbert when he's throwing Paul Gilbert licks at you?
I just don't think you could function properly. Yeah, you just couldn't, you know, like, I mean, obviously you've got this, it's not, you don't have the ego because you're not wearing it loudly, but the confidence you must have in your abilities and yourself, it's like you could do a TED talk on that alone. Like you could do an inspirational talk on that alone to guitarists who don't have that confidence, because I think people who are egotistical probably wouldn't be able to talk about it. And I think it would come out the wrong way and it would maybe intimidate. Like I as an artist, I've seen some of my hero artists say, I was born with this intuition and stuff. I'm like, you can't say that to someone who's learning. Because then you're trying to say to them that they weren't born with it and they can't learn how to do that, you know? So, I think... I
was just going to say that gets back to what I was saying about kind of, you know, I'm happy in my own skin because I've done all this stuff. I know, and there'll be people watching this who know me who won't know about this has happened because I don't broadcast it. Just because I don't broadcast it doesn't mean it didn't happen. But inside, I'm cool, you know what I mean? Because I've really had, especially the Marshall thing, gave me the opportunity to play and meet, you know, some of my absolute idols and heroes, man. You know, it really did. You know, and that goes from the first time I met Zakk Wylde, and he held up he had his bottle top guitar, the one that he used in Pride and Glory, and it was in the case, and I was like, can I touch it? It was like, pick it up, have a jam, man. But of course, I'm left-handed.
You're lefty
so it's no good
too.
to me.
How annoying is that?
Same thing with. I'm sure Joe Bonamassa did the same thing around that time that I played with him. He was like, "Oh, have a go on," you know, his Les Paul, the one with the two different volume and tone. His
baby, he sold that. I think he let it go. I think, but yeah,
right. but yeah, it you know, it enabled me the chance to meet and Slash as well. All those times meeting Slash was
Holy
it was incredible, really. You know, so and it was a long time coming actually when I first, because I had not met him obviously and been a fan since 10 or 11, and then it was at one of the festivals here, which I'm probably going to say was in the mid 2000s, and then a friend of ours who's a big friend, we both worked. He worked for Marshall for the USA, Nick Bocott. He was like, come around the back, and I was like, this is it. It's gonna actually happen. And and then there he was in the Velvet Revolver dressing room, and you know, you got Duff and Matt saw him in the background, and there he was in his top hat, and I was like,
holy
some of the chats I've had with other people that was just a meeting thing, but when you're playing with people, you tend to obviously keep a professional head on, but inside you're thinking, holy I can't believe this is happening. You know what I mean? And then and then after that I sort of met Slash several times at various shows, or he would be signing for Marshall, and went out for lunch with him in Bletchley and Milton Keynes, where Marshall was.
That just sounds so surreal. Hey, I just went for
the most surreal thing was, other than Marshall, they were on a day off of their Velvet Revolver tour. Him and Dave Kushner came to the factory. We went out for lunch with them, a whole bunch of guys from Marshall and them. And Bletchley is like a really small town. Nothing goes on there. There's no rock and roll about it other than the fact that's where Marshall is. And it was a small little Chinese restaurant, and we all walked in, and of course, people at Bletchley probably wouldn't recognize Slash, and he was wearing like a beanie hat and whatever. But there was one guy at a table, and he was just eating his soup or whatever, and he just looks up and sees Slash walking past. He's like,
that's gold.
Yeah. And then sorry, go on.
Is there a part of you that like from being like getting Guitarist of the Year at 16, like, and obviously playing rock music, like that's your lane, right? Like I've watched enough videos of yours to know that this guy rocks out, right? So is there a part of you that wanted to be the rock star? I mean, you're on stage, yes, you're rocking, yes, you're playing louder than everybody on the street, right? But like, is there a part of you that did want to be, like, obviously you've got the chops and obviously everything's been there for you, but you're not Slash, or you're not like...
No, of course.
And I'm just curious because
I was always when you're younger, definitely, my plan was to leave school, join Guns N' Roses, and that'd be my life's set. But of course, as you start to leave school, you realize that's not going to happen. So I was just more than happy to try and make some sort of living out of it. That's all I wanted to do. And if I could, but even then, I don't come from a musical family, don't come from a musical town or any of that business.
I read that.
And, it was like, how do I try and sort of get out of this and into something that I've no idea how to get into. You had a band, right? You've got your own band, and I had my own band. Really, that was fueled more in the sort of 2000s by the Marshall shows. I would take out two very good friends of mine. I had in fact, we spoke a couple of weeks ago for the first time in ages, but that was the, if you came to see any Marshall clinics in the sort of mid 2000s, that was us that you saw. And it was really nice again to be able to have the opportunity to do that. But I really always just been happy to, I've done a lot of gigs where I've just been the guitarist on the stage and there's been someone at the focal point in front of me. And that's really where I'm happiest. Doing the Marshall thing was funny because it was obviously me always in the limelight, doing the shows, doing the clinics, blah blah blah,
talking and
exactly, having a chat and talking about stuff and playing, and that's what really got my name out there, was doing all of that stuff. But yeah, man, it's it's a funny one. I mean, leading on to that whole thing of when I was saying about going out for lunch with Slash that day, the sort of pinnacle of that whole thing of it's sort of almost come full circle. We were sat there and I was talking to Dave Kushner, and he was asking me about the Young Guitarist of the Year thing. He asked me how I got the Marshall gig, and I said, well, I won this thing called Young Guitarist of the Year. And he said, wow, you must be a real shredder and all that. I was like, no, not really. I sort of try and play more from the heart, make it more soulful, more melodic, rather than all that. And Slash says, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, And I think, yeah, I know it is, because I learned it all from you. Yeah. Although I didn't say that out loud. Inside, my brain is just going, yep, because I learned it all from you, man. But I just acknowledged it. It's like, yeah, cool. You try and play it cool.
That's cool, man. Like, look, I just mad respect for like I said, for me, just like seeing what you're doing with your channel, and then finding out that it's like the beast that's under the water, or you see those covers on DVDs where it's like the tip is something, but underneath the water it's like a beast. That's what you come across as to me. It's like you're doing something that's contributing really positively to such a nasty landscape. Like YouTube is full of and it's like
of course.
You got to dig really deep to find good content on there, and I spend a lot of time digging because I don't have television, I don't have Netflix, that stuff that spews out this crap to you, and you end up watching something that you're just wasting time. Like, oh my god, I just went to sleep to that. So
sure.
Finding your stuff.
I try not to make it.
And
again, it's I really don't look back much. I don't ever want to have this mentality of, well, there was, once I was young.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Yeah, sure.
No way. This is my life where I'm at now. Never did I imagine that I wouldn't work for a year because of a global pandemic, as with every other musician and actor and stuff in the world. But the whole basis of doing the Lefty guitar channel thing, as I said, wasn't to put the focus on me. It was to make it about guitars, make it about having chats with people, and also not, I didn't want to precede it with, hi everybody, don't you know who the fuck I am? Because there's a million people out there who don't know who I am, and that's what I'm always very conscious of. But if I can try and do something and just do a bit of playing and have a bit of fun and a laugh and a joke, and with some of my own guitars that I've used that have done some travels with me, tell a bit of a story about how and when I've used them and how they've fared up, that's really I took a think about the format of what people perhaps want to see from a guitar demo, and that's why I put tracks together for everything I do. And I come up with a little riff, and then I'll build a track around it, and then I'll record it with the camera rolling, and that'll be that interspersed with a bit of chat, and there we go.
It's quite rewarding too, isn't it? Like I do my Monday morning rants as a therapeutic thing for me. It's kind of like it's the only sort of consistent thing that I do, really, and it's on a Monday morning, so it tends to start my week off nicely because I've done something. I don't feel bad about like, oh, I did nothing today, and it's a bad way to start the week. So I do think that if you want to get good at something, you do have to have some reward and enjoyment from it.
I think so. I think you have to play to your strengths as well, because ultimately I was really racking my brain as to how I can just fill some time. And I thought, you know what, it's got to be guitar. It's going to have to be something guitar related. And with very limited access to stuff that everyone has at the moment, I thought, well, I'll just crack on. But the flip side of that was I got in touch with loads of old contacts in the industry and said, look, this is what I'm doing. If you want to throw some guitars my way, man, do it. And Fender were, given their dues, they were straight on it. So they sent me like a bunch of Gretsch guitars and some Charvels and Jackson.
That's so cool, man.
Which is great because it becomes relevant then.
Yeah, and you're making it happen as well. Like you're the go-getter, the initiator. Like it's almost like back where we started again. It's like I didn't just like your video and close the window. I thought I'd send you a message. I think like it's a good lesson for people to be a go-getter rather than just being lazy, I suppose.
I think so. It's very easy to do. I could have not done it because essentially there's been zero financial gain from it. I knew there wouldn't be. That wasn't the plan. I'm not going in this to make money. I'm simply going into this that while everything's at a standstill and I have some time and I have some guitars and I have a very small, bit of talent and a very even smaller bit of knowledge, trying to use that the best I can. But also there's something in the back of my mind, the slightly vindictive part, perhaps, that thinks, like you were saying earlier, you watch some guys who have really got, amazing following and, this reputation, kind of not that great at players. And they've kind of that's not to say I'm bad mouthing them, but even more so, they've not really been in the circus and done it. You know what I mean?
But they're not giving either. This is the thing. They're not, like, I feel like a lot of people who have the biggest potential to inspire don't use their power and reach and strength to give something, just a little, just give something that people can walk away with and actually use in their lives. And I think it's such a shame. Like it's almost gotten me so mad that I sometimes leave comments about their clickbaity titles, because I'm like, well, do you really, and I don't want to be that guy. Like, I don't want to be that guy that is all of a sudden leaving negative comments. I try to be as constructive as possible, but
that's what I don't understand about the reputable people who, let's say they are, I assume they're making money out of it. I assume they're doing very well.
Absolutely.
And that's become their thing. Why do they feel the need to do the clickbaity thing? Because essentially they could be now setting a precedent saying, in fact, you don't need to be clickbaity. And you
well,
can
it's
just
money.
say,
I think it's money. Like, I hate to be negative about money, but it's another topic altogether. But I do think it's money. I don't think if money was not involved in it whatsoever, I think they wouldn't be doing it. And you're probably right. And I think it's money related.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it has the trickle-down effect to then, like we were saying earlier, everyone who starts a YouTube channel thinks that's the way they've got to be. Whereas essentially, if you're, again, comfortable in your own skin, you don't. Make it honest.
No.
I don't care if this time next year, I don't care if I've got 10 more subscribers than I already have and 10 more views.
Exactly.
Because it's there forever. I know people like you will watch it and enjoy it. It's not certainly a thing of ego or saying, look how great I am. It's about trying to make it varied, incorporate different styles, really get the most out of guitars that you can. And at the same time, like I said, on the flip side, having a chat with the people who have been there. The guy who was Robbie Williams' guitarist, the guy who played bass with James Blunt for years, the guy who does the sessions.
It's like the session musos, man. Like, I think
it is, and that's that. I mean, that whole thing is a bit iffy as well when you get into it. When you start going, as I've done for the last several years doing musical theater and that sort of more session-based thing, everyone then becomes a session guitarist, which again, I'm very dubious about even calling myself that, because I've got a friend who is the session guitarist who does all the main London sessions, like I say, for Disney and for the movies and stuff like that. I'm not him. So I don't know why I'd start calling myself a session guitarist, because he's a session guy. But then everyone's a
you touched on it for a second, but I did want to just touch on this as like to wrap up where your website was at. But your CV talked about doing musicals, and I think musicals, the high school me would have thought it was really naff, right? But in high school, you heard about session guitarists, and like you said, back in the day, there was so much respect being thrown around, and you respected anyone who was a guitar player, and if someone was a session player, session guitarist, you looked up to them because, like, holy you could play with the stuff that my mum listens to. You could play with Tina Turner. You could play with Michael Jackson. And like, so as a guitarist, I was like, I like that guy in the band, not just the singer, right? So, but whereas now it's kind of like, if you're a session guitarist, it's almost like you're nobody to the trendy kids, they only want to know the singer, or even singers in bands end up splitting off to their own record label and doing their own albums. And musicals, though, I find have turned a corner and they've become really cool.
Well, it's a funny one because I think it's more of a safe bet in terms of the work that you can get and the elongated amount of work you can get, where there's no money left in the sort of record industry anymore. Excuse me, I'm just going to close this one.
Yeah, sure. You're right. Okay, so it's a gig thing. It's a gig thing.
Yeah, it's more of having the opportunity to sort of make your work more varied. For me, what it was that I'd had, let's say, 20 years, as well as doing the master thing, various bands and other things that I'd done. I could always play what I want, but in doing the musicals, you have to go in and play it to the note as per the pad, and it is the most disciplined gig you'll ever do. And as a dep, which is where you go in and you cover for someone, you don't get any rehearsal. So it is essentially terrifying, but it's that terrifying nature of things that really keeps me ticking. Like, I really love to have a challenge, and you know what I mean? You're diving outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. Knowing that if you do this and people be, he's a rock guy, I'm not sure, and you go in and you absolutely nail it and you think, I've got it. I can do this.
That's cool.
It reignites.
So it's like a mark in a wall thing for you, or a feather in your cap kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so. But from that, you then go on to get a bit of a reputation and get more gigs and do more shows. And
Right.
of course, they've been hit incredibly hard and through all of this. But when it gets going again, there's again this whole huge network of musicians in London that do all the shows and stuff like that.
They are getting going again, though, aren't they? They're starting to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be August, September time before they're properly up and running here in the UK. But some of them have opened social distance, but not that many. But
I got a friend of mine. He was in design school with me, but he's such a loud character, and he ended up getting involved as a singer in musicals, and he does that. He does Priscilla and all that kind of stuff, and it's been really tough for him, man, the last couple of years. But he's just got a gig doing Priscilla again, so it looks like it's happening again. And he's in England somewhere. He's in London somewhere. He's in Europe somewhere.
Right.
So it sounds like it's starting to happen again.
It is, which would be nice, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it's been so long now. We can all wait a couple of more months, to get things moving again. But like I said, it's probably a strange one. I mean, I speak to a lot of younger guys now who are, they've gone the whole thing of uni and studied music and got their degree, and they just want to get straight into musical theatre. And it's just like, come on, man, save that for later. Go and have some fun first,
Yeah,
jump in the bus,
go and rock out. Yeah,
go and do a crap load of gigs, go and do some great gigs, go and do everything in between that we've all done, and then sort of settle into this a bit later on. Because that was, I there's no way I would have been interested in doing it in my 20s, because I was out.
Exactly. That's what I was curious about, like I was curious about it because it's like as a graphic designer, I never was interested in going to become a teacher. I thought that, I will go out and, try to make millions and whatever. And then towards the end of my design career, at some point I did go and teach, and I looked at it as giving back. Like, I think maybe, do you look at musicals as almost like, well, it's a different beast altogether, but you can do it. It's a challenge, but it's completely different to rocking out, improvising and all that kind of stuff. Like you said, you have to be like, I have a responsibility now with these students. I can't just, that's the one that I want to teach, and these guys have no hope. I'm not going to, you have to focus on the no hopes more than the people who've got it, so it's like, it's a real job, but, it's highly rewarding too, isn't it? It's kind of like, I don't know, kind of look at musicals might be like that, like a,
and also, it really doesn't matter what your reputation is before, or who you are, or where you've been, or who you've played with, or no matter how many times, you've done whatever. You go in and you're judged on that show that you play. You're only as good as the last show you play in terms of that. And it keeps you, I think personally, it keeps you really sharp up here, because
it sounds like you have to be,
you do, and you have to be on all the time.
And there's a lot of people involved too. Like, and
you're not the focal point. That was the other thing for me. I think I have become, I think in the last 10 years or so, particularly the last 5 years, I think I have become more reclusive in terms of playing, because I think now, could I do some of those Marshall clinics that I used to do and stand on that stage with some backing tracks or just a small band and do it and be the focal point? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Because I've done so many.
You're rocking out, man. I saw like a Slash tribute thing that you did on Anderton's, and like you were just like, you did a medley of
that's right,
Guns N' Roses, and I'm just watching it going.
That was a long time ago, actually. Yeah.
Like
I remember
the confidence and you were like telling the PA guy to adjust this and that, and like, man, like you just you were in it.
I think anything you've done makes you a better and more rounded musician. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. You have all these things, and it gives you the confidence to go on to the next thing. I think it's as simple as that.
All right, dude. I'm driving here. I'm going to move on to the next topic. Okay. So I've seen a few of your videos. You've got these sort of select few guitars behind you, but it's completely deceiving because obviously you have a ton more hidden away somewhere else. I saw I went down the rabbit hole with YouTube and found a whole lot of Gibson related videos. I found that whole Play Authentic disgusting marketing thing that they did, and the whole, they almost went down and they almost lost everything and someone had to buy them out. And people talking about like videos on YouTube, people unpacking their brand new Les Pauls and finding all these quality control issues with them. And I just went down the rabbit hole, found all of that.
Right.
And then I found a more recent video where they did a survey and they found that the average guitar player, and I wouldn't call you average because I'd say you're a working musician, but they're saying the survey says the average guitar player has 8 guitars. Which
8.
Yeah, that really surprised me because 8's a lot. Like
Sure.
they're saying that not the professional guitarist, the average guitarist has 8.
That's quite a lot for your average guy. Yeah.
I freaked out, and then I did a little bit more digging, and Phil McKnight, who has a shop and YouTube channel that has a ton of followers, he did a survey on his channel, and his result was 12. Most of his YouTube fans or his fans in general have 12 guitars. So how many do you have? I bet you don't even know. Hey.
I have to start by saying I had to sell a load last year because I needed to raise some finances because of
fair call.
I don't want to go into the COVID thing because I know it's a down on everybody, but we were about to move house. We were just on the brink of moving house, and we'd found a house, and the offer got accepted. We just about put everything through, and all my work got cancelled. We had to pull out the house move. So
savage.
And then it went from that to we've got thankfully my wife works and she's worked through all of this, but I needed to raise some cash, and I had to sell quite a few guitars. And
what's a few? Reverb. Like 10, 20?
No, it was literally I think 5. Or I think maybe 5 or 6.
Okay, that's not that bad.
To answer your question though, I don't know, but I'm gonna say it's probably about 35, 40, somewhere in that region. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't need them all.
Well, it's not that. It's like obviously some of them live in cases, right? Like you don't have them all out, and I have these which are generally the ones I use for recording, like I've got steel strung acoustic, nylon strung acoustic. I've got a nice actually new Gretsch that I bought. They sent me it and I liked it so much I bought it. I've got my old Ibanez, which I did a video on, which I've kept down here. I've got a bass that I use for recording the tracks, and a 12 string. So they're my go-tos for when I'm here recording and stuff like that. They're the workhorses.
Exactly. And then up in the house I've got probably another half a dozen on walls in various places, and then the rest are all in cases.
You know what trips me out the most is that they're all lefties. Like, oh my god!
Yes.
I saw that video of you doing that with the Les Paul, and you said what every lefty already knows, which is that experience of going into an amazing guitar shop, which has like thousands of beautiful instruments, and in the corner are like 3 or 4 couple of dusty guitars. Yeah. And you mentioned that, and it's like, holy it's never been any different like that for me. Like, that's the sad thing about it now, is like you buy online, and then as soon as you unbox something, that whole unboxing experience is so unromantic. It's nothing like going into a guitar shop and getting a hard case. It's a cardboard box, and there's plastic, and there's an elastic band, and it's a sticky tape, and there's styrofoam over the knobs, and the neck. As soon as you touch the neck, you're like, oh, I don't like it. This neck's too fat. And it's like, you would have known that within seconds if you were in the guitar shop.
And that's it. There's nothing beats the whole thing of seeing it on the wall, especially as a lefty, because you'll be scanning across, then you'll see one that's a lefty and you think, oh, hang on. Then you'll go out to it and it's actually something decent. And then you'll pick it up and then you'll feel the neck and you'll think,
and then they're like, well, if you want, we can get you anything you want. You just need to order it in.
It's funny what you were saying about Gibson, though. In the, of course, there was that the video that I did. I've got a few Les Pauls, but that one on my Sunburst one, which is from 2010. There's always this thing of, Gibson's good years and they're not so good years. But, this is the other thing of being left-handed, is that we don't really get that much of a choice, in the good years or the not so good years. We're only really getting what is currently available. And I know they do on special order that. I think Gibson, one of the better ones, particularly now, they've sort of changed hands and they seem to try and be putting themselves.
It seems really good now. Yeah,
I think so. And
I think it's a good time to buy a Gibson now.
I think so. And I've reached out to a couple of people actually to try and let me borrow one of the new equivalent of the standards, to see how they compare, because there's literally 2000. That Sunburst Les Paul was 2010. And I don't really have many other years just before that or just after it, Gibson wise, to compare it to. All I know is that it's great. It sounds great. I've never been a huge fan of Gibson pickups, so I swapped them out, and it's a brilliant guitar, So I don't know, this whole cork sniffing thing of the good years and bad years of Gibson is a bit of a strange one, but I guess right-handed people know a lot more about it because they have so much more choice.
Dude, I also think that people are complaining about that is nothing. Like I prefer to think of it as it's a block of wood, and it's made by hand, not by a robot. So yes. I think that when I watch a guitar channel and they're like checking out and they're unboxing a guitar and they're checking the intonation, going, the intonation's out. I'm like, well, that's only going to take you a minute to adjust. Right. Bro, what's the big deal?
Yeah. It's like getting a brand new car. It's like getting a brand new car and saying, well, I've got to move the seat. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I think the nitpicking is next level these days. It's like,
crazy.
The 17th fret it's a little bit sharp here. I'm like, well, I have files and I have, or I'm buying like a $200 guitar and like it's got a high fret. I'm not going to freak out. It's a $200 guitar. Like, okay, maybe if I'm buying a $5,000 guitar, I wouldn't want it to have a high fret. Fair enough. But if the intonation's out or there's a little bit of imperfection on like some of the binding or something, I'm like, well, it's made by hand. It's like there's something romantic about that. Like a human made it.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just gotten to a point now where people are after perfection. And don't
you think there's this whole thing? The biggest bugbear I have, again, which sort of is reflecting a lot of YouTube, is the players search for the holy grail of tone that essentially isn't there, and that they're always just searching for a sound or an effects pedal or something that just isn't there. And I don't know if that comes from me, again, having sort of been dropped into the ocean of playing a load of different Marshall amps and just getting on with it. And I'm not just talking about the big valve ones, I'm talking about even when it was the solid state ones, but you just got to do your best to try and make them sound good, which I was never really, I certainly don't mean this in an egotistical way, I was never really trying, because it was all there. I had a guitar and I had an amp, and that's how it sounded. You know what I mean?
But you've got your ears. That's the difference. Like, I think a lot of people who haven't developed their ears yet will still watch a review. It's almost like I play computer games. It's the same. Someone will follow a YouTube channel that has the most likes, and they'll watch a games review. If that games reviewer shits on the game, they won't buy it. And
yeah, of course.
If they like the game, they'll go and buy it. So if a reviewer has a lot of a big audience and they say, buy the Boss Katana, it's all over valve amps, it's fucking amazing, it's $400, go and buy it, and everyone will go and buy it. And then people that buy it will chime in on the comments and say, I have a Boss Katana, it's amazing. And it's this Chinese whispers thing that goes,
which is ridiculous, because I would have opinions on something that would be completely different to yours and vice versa.
And that's the way it is.
There is no ultimate tone to be had, because everyone's concept of tone is completely different. I know that mine is, and I know that when I've been recording this stuff, people have been really nice saying how great they all sound, but it's literally just my Line 6 Helix with some Michael Britt profiles, which they do sound amazing. And there's about eight sounds in there, which I use for gigs, for various stuff. And they're just variations of that I use on everything. I don't sit down every time I do one of these guitar videos. I don't sit down and sit in there tweaking sounds for hours on end. I literally plug the guitar in, go through kind of one of those 8 patches, maybe some of the older presets that I've got, find a riff, work it out, lay it down with a click, and that's it. It's otherwise I probably would have produced about 2 or 3 videos so far, rather than the 16 or 17 guitar videos I've done, because it would just take so much time. But there are the knob twiddlers and the guys out there. That's what they're really into, is like always buying gear and always buying that gear and then selling it a few months later because it wasn't what they wanted and all that. It's like,
dude, as a photographer, I'm the same, man. Like, some people they haven't gone to design school to even learn how to compose a shot and get the framing right. They're too busy buying the latest lenses and the latest $5,000 camera bodies with the more resolution and stuff, but they still can't take a good photo because they haven't learned how to frame. So I think guitar playing is really similar to that. Like I turned 46 this month, so I finally treated myself to buying an American Fender Strat. I've never had a made in USA. I've always had Squiers, and I've got a ton of Squiers. And one of the Squiers I bought in 96 or 97, something like that. It's like a Korean made one back then. When I bought the American one, and the first time I actually unboxed it was an amazing unboxing. Like the case was sexy and the guitar smelled great and everything. It felt great. But then when I picked up the Korean one, it's like that sentimental thing that we were talking about earlier. It's kind of like, well, holy this guitar's got a thinner neck. And you can't, no matter how nice the Fender is or how expensive it is, the neck on it is different because I like the thinner neck on the Korean Squier. So it's funny how you can't just say this guitar's better than that, or now that I have the real deal, part of it is I'm just happy that I finally have it. Part of it is like, oh my God, I finally have that Ferrari, and I'm not going to drive this to do the groceries, but I own it. It's mine. I earned it.
Yeah, that's right. And you become so used to, like, it was no different from for years in my teenage years, I played an Epiphone Les Paul. And in fact, when I first started doing the Marshall shows, I was using that Epiphone Les Paul, which I changed one of the pickups out to a Seymour Duncan. And it was a great show of these amps sound great with a low cost guitar. But when I got my first Gibson, which I probably would have been in my late teens, it was a pretty monumental moment because I finally owned a Gibson. But
did it play better than your Epiphone?
No, it didn't. I really originally, because I was so used, I wore my frets down so much on that Epiphone, and I was so used to that.
Yes.
When I got the Gibson, I was like, the neck was much wider, and I was like, wow, this is a lot harder to play. So it was like a period of adjustment after that. But I didn't care because I owned a Gibson. You know what I mean? Yes.
Like the way I see it is like I probably just need to play the fuck out of the American made, and it'll get there. You know,
and
like
also don't try and compare it. Just take it at face value. You know,
exactly. I think that's it too.
Whether and also don't think about the connection between the whole Fender, Squier, whatever. Just treat it as if it was a completely different brand of guitar. How does it feel? How does it play? You know, it's one of those.
I think that's what it is. I think it's so too many years of hype in my own head, and like it's even the sound that I can get out of my Korean Squier just sounds so much more that Fender neck pickup bluesy tone, and the new pickups are this, I don't know, some Fandangle technology, some V mod, I don't know what they are, but they're a lot louder, and they don't have that. I even started slamming the pickups down to the pick guard and decking them and trying to make it a lot like my Squier. I'm like, stop. Just don't try to emulate something that you're so used to, that you've been playing for like 20 years, and just enjoy this thing. Yeah, you're bang on. I just wanted to also lefty to lefty. Something that I'm seeing a lot of people doing online is they buy left-handed guitars and they flip them upside down, Jimi Hendrix style. What are your thoughts on that?
Have you ever tried it?
It's horrible. Yeah, the leads in the way. The knobs are. You can't strum without hitting a knob. I
honestly don't know how he did it, because it's the most uncomfortable thing.
Oh, he's unreal.
You've got the cutaway. You can't get up the neck because of the way it's cut away. You've got, obviously on a Fender, you've then got the cable coming right out the front. You've got the knobs right there.
And you've got the body cut. The belly cut is completely on the side too.
Yeah. So, there is no need this day and age for people to be trying it. What has become really apparent though, since I've been doing these videos and through the comments that I've had, is the sheer amount of people who are left-handed but took it up right-handed because of the availability of guitars.
Oh, that's horrible.
Honestly, it's crazy. I even had a guy the other day who said he pplayed right-handed for years, and then he's naturally left-handed, took it up right-handed, and then after about 10 years started playing left-handed again. And it's so crazy.
Time.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't
look,
it?
but the Asian culture, like when I was young, my dad used to threaten me to go to right-handed school.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and I think there were some English books that I dug up through Google search that were like curing left-handedness and stuff back in the day.
It was the same for my nan, who she passed away in October last year, but she was 90, she was 95, 96. But when she's the only other person in the family who was left-handed other than me.
Right.
And she always used to tell me when she was at school, she would literally get caned into using her right hand because it was just the mentality of it all. Weird, isn't it?
It is crazy. I mean, I think it's connected, for me anyway, it's connected to the left brain, right brain artist thing. And I think a lot of artists are left-handed.
Yes.
A lot of left-handed people have messy writing, not because of the smudging, but just because it's messy. I don't know what it is, but a lot of... Is your writing messy? Because mine's pretty messy.
Yeah, it's not
man.
the neatest at all.
Dude. All right, well, look, I'm going to wrap it up soon because I think we've been yapping for quite some time.
Cool,
thanks for your time again, man. But maybe just... I did want to get into the whole being a father and 3 kids, but I think we'll skip that because it's like that's just a personal fascination of mine. Like I always respect, the dude who's in the Uber driving me home or taxi driving me home at 4 a.m. from a big night out, and he's working his ass off driving me home because he's trying to feed the kids, right? So I have this huge respect.
It's just, your perspective is, becomes completely different when you have kids. And, we're not newcomers to it by any means. In fact, today, as I speak to you, our daughter is doing her last day of high school because she's finished. She's doing her last assessment.
She's got the big stressful exams and
because of all that's been going on, they changed it all round, but they've been moving the goalposts left, right, and centre. But essentially, they replaced it with a whole load of assessments, which I think works better, but it's been more elongated. So she's about to turn 16, and that's crazy in itself because I always remember her being tiny, and a lot of my friends, when I tell them that she's finishing school, they just can't believe it.
Just like
and we've got 2 boys. We've got 2 boys who are 11 and 10, and yeah, man, it's all about them. Really, you just you still want to be the provider, regardless of what you do. The thing I've established is when I am working, the kids, they don't really care what you do. They just, if you're away, they don't know why you're away, or they do, but they don't care. They just want you at home. But they've had me at home for a long time in the last year or so. So
yeah. No, good on you for good on you for not being like. The flip side of that is like I do have a lot of mates. Like I suppose when like my mum, she's in her 70s, so a lot of her mates are like dying around her, and I think it's just that's a life thing, like now that I'm 46, a whole lot of my mates are divorcing and they've got children.
Sure.
And it's just that level, you go through life, you go through different levels, and then the people that are the same age as you just start to see some patterns appear, and
you do. But the strange thing is that we have friends who are still having babies. I have friends, particularly in the last year, who are just going through that and just perhaps having their first or second, and that was 10 years ago for us since we had our last one. Right. And I just try and say to him, it really does get easier because those days of the sleepless nights and just feeling like a zombie during the day through lack of sleep, particularly when you've got 3 young ones. That's long gone for us. We get out of bed usually after the kids these days, or up before them, and they're sleeping in or whatever. And the only thing I say to them is it gets easier. It really does.
But also just like the fact that you're still very much a passionate person, very much doing stuff. I think that's where I can't pigeonhole everybody where it's gone wrong, but when people tell me that they wish they hadn't gotten lazy because that's probably what really started going wrong in the first place was when they got lazy with stuff. And I think when you drop your passions, you're susceptible to getting lazy, and next thing you know, you lose your drive, and next thing you know, you become a bad father maybe. Because you haven't got a spark in you, you haven't got something that makes you happy.
Yeah,
so,
I guess so, maybe. And there's also just no room for laziness anyway when you become a parent. That
right. Because then you're a bad parent. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think
Exactly.
you're always just feeling that you want to be able to do your best for them, whatever that is, and
You got to have
yeah.
drive, right? You got to, like, what you're doing
Yes.
with the YouTube channel and everything. It's like that takes initiative and drive, and it takes all of that doubt comes into your head. Whether is this even worth it? Is anyone even going to check this out? Are
Right,
people
there
going
you
to,
go.
and you need to have that, right? Like you need to
Of course.
you need to
And
go
and
through
that's the
that.
thing. Absolutely. And you've got to think, how is this going to go? Am I going to get two views on each video? And in the early days, because again, my name isn't sort of initially connected to it. I'm sort of behind the cover of this whole Lefty guitar channel thing. But I thought, how long is it going to be until the first person says that he hates me, or says that I'm, how long is it going to be until people start disliking videos? Again, there's a certain essence of me that doesn't really care. But bizarrely, I've still not had anyone say anything negative, which I really don't mind if they do, because like I say, I'm comfortable in my own skin, and this is what I do,
Exactly.
And no one's yet disliked it, but there will be a day. But again, it comes down to I couldn't really give two shits,
I like it, man. Look, I don't even think I need to ask you, your typical what's ahead for you and what are you, because I think you're doing what you're doing because there was a gap for it, and you're filling that gap, and where it takes you, wherever. But I generally speaking, like, I really hope that you start gigging again and you get out there, because I think that's where you're happiest. And
I think so. And who knows? But for the time being, I know that I'm kind of happy doing this, and it's kept me busy. Ultimately, I just wanted something to do, and it's been a lot of fun. And I've met and been in touch with a lot of people that, had I not done it, I would never have been in touch with, like you now, like with Patrick, like with various other people that, have been in touch. And it's been really nice,
Awesome, man. Well, Chris, thanks for your time, man. Hang on the line, right? I'll say goodbye in a second. But guys, I will leave all of Chris's links in the description. Make sure you check him out. I'll leave links to the channel, and check out his website too, because I do think it's an awesome 5 minutes that you spend there. And if you read through stuff, you won't even realize you're reading it. Honestly, like, I think it's really cool. And I think you're on Instagram. You're not on Facebook. Props to you, man.
No,
Props to you that you're not on
Facebook.
no Zuckerberg for you, but congratulations there. But I'll leave all the links in there. Thanks so much, Chris. And guys, if you made it this long in the podcast, congratulations to you guys, because I hope you got some gold out of that. All right.
Thanks,
Catch you guys in the next one.